Hi, this is Bruce Buffer, your voice of the Octagon, and you're listening to MMA Mental.
We're now joined by Stephanie Eggink. Stephanie will be co-headlining at XFC 23 a week on Friday. Thank you for joining us today, Stephanie.
Hey.
How are you? Obviously, we're about 9 days out from the fight. How are you feeling so close to the big fight?
All my focus and attention is on my diet and cutting weight. I'm big. I'm a big 115er, so the weight cut is always a little bit of a struggle. I'm 5'8" in the 115-pound division, so I cut a substantial amount. So when the week out from a fight, my training really is mostly focused on losing those pounds. So that's what I'm doing. That's what my focus is on. And right now, instead of thinking 9 days till my fight, I'm thinking like 9 days till I can eat. So.
How much weight do you have to get then to get down to 115?
Well, I walk around, when I'm not dieting at all. I walk around at about 138 to 140, and then like 6-8 weeks out, I start cleaning up my diet. And I diet down to 125, and then I cut 10 pounds of water the day before weigh-ins, or the day of weigh-ins, the night before weigh-ins. So it's a pretty big leap. Yeah.
That is quite
about 25 pounds, actually.
Yeah, it's a hell of a cut. So are you is 115 where you're looking to stay, or is that cut going to be too much, do you think, or what are your plans for the future?
I don't know. I always think at this point, I always think, I'm not doing this again. This sucks. I'm going to go back to 125. And then after my fight, like last time after my fight, I was like, oh, it was fine. I can do it again. It always sucks right now. But, I don't know. Honestly, I'd still be big at 125 at being 5'8". So, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I'm really dominant at 115. I'm way bigger and stronger, and even with the weight cut, I feel really strong still at 115. It just sucks. It really sucks. So we'll see. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure what I want to do.
I can imagine it being very, very difficult. So you talked there about your how you're feeling at 115 on fight night. Obviously, you talked there about your strength. What effect does that have on your stamina?
It doesn't. I really thought it would have an effect, but I felt I could have gone 5 rounds in my last fight. In the 3rd round of my last fight, I still had all kinds of energy. I credit most of that to my strength and conditioning programming that I do. My recovery time was awesome, and I didn't feel weak at all, which was really surprising, considering how much water I lost. But no, I didn't feel the effects. Had I wouldn't have fought at 115 again. But I didn't feel anything more than at 125.
So you talk about obviously your last fight. Was that your last fight? Was that your first fight at 115?
My first MMA fight. I had a couple boxing matches at 115 when I was substantially younger, when I was 17 and 18. So I had been at 115 before, but again, that was it was 7 years ago. So pretty much, yeah, I'd say my first time at 115.
Obviously, as well, obviously the last fight was your XFC debut. Do you think because you're fighting for a bigger promotion, you're going to be facing tougher competition, so you obviously want to get the maximum benefit, and obviously fighting at 115, like you've already said, you've got quite a strength advantage. Do you think that's going to play a big part now that you're up to a higher level of opponent?
Yeah. The only reason that I went to 115 is because I got offered that fight with Heather Clark, and I had no intentions of going to 115 at all. But once I was there, and Heather's a good fighter, worthy opponent, and I felt way stronger and faster than her, and so it kind of made me think, I wonder how good I could do in this division at 115. How quickly I could climb the rankings. So in that sense, it interests me. But I think I'd be able to climb the rankings higher at 115 or faster at 115 than 125. But at the same time, I don't know if the trade-off is worth it with the weight cut. But well, you're asking me a week out for my fight when I'm miserable, so we'll see.
Yeah, I can fully understand where you're coming from. Now, another thing worth noting about your fight is, of course, originally you were slated to fight Angela Mangana, and then Brianna stepped in, I believe, about 3 or 4 weeks ago. What impact does it have on you when your opponent changes so late in the game?
It was mostly disappointing because that was supposed to be a title fight. And this is no longer a title fight. But I was disappointed for a few days. But I got over it. I was, ready for a 5-round fight, so my cardio is going to be excellent. In this 3-rounder. But one thing about Brianna is that she's new to the game, so there's not a lot of video out there, whereas Angela has tons of videos. So the only, I've seen a couple of videos of Brianna, but, mostly what I know is that she's short. She's a lot shorter than me, but, that just means she can make that up for any mass, be thicker, So, my game changed a little bit based on that, just based on, her body composition and everything, but in terms of, my mental focus and stuff, I'm still ready, still game to go. So I'm not taking her lightly. I don't take anybody lightly. I don't care how green they are or what their record is. So.
No, I think you're right to do that. You never know what somebody can bring to the table, and obviously training and then being in a fight is two completely different things. So, I mean, obviously you talk about the disappointment of the title fight, and of course that would probably be the biggest disappointment, more so than the change of opponent. Obviously, if you win this fight, will your next fight be for a title?
I believe so. That's kind of what I talked to the promoter, John Priscilla, had discussed. The title's just put on hold. It's not canceled. So, I will be fighting for the title at some point. My guess is not the next card, but the one after that. So maybe late summer, early fall would be my guess. And I'm assuming it will be against Angela, but I don't know. But I will still be fighting for the title at some point. I was told that by the promoter, so.
That's good. At least you got that as a good motivation for you. Now, you talked a little bit there about your background in boxing. I wanted to ask you, what made you want to do the transition from boxing to mixed martial arts?
My initial plan was to do both. But why I initially started getting into MMA was I got bored of the boxing training. I started boxing when I was 16, started doing MMA when I was 21. So by the time I had started doing MMA, I had been doing boxing for 5 years, and I was I was bored. It's not as diverse, obviously, as MMA. MMA, I can train something new every day. Where boxing is, I went in, worked with my coach on some focus mitts, hit the bag, sparred. That's it. There's not as much going on. But like I said, I wanted to do both. And I was doing both when I lived in Washington and then when I lived in Tampa. But right now I'm in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and there's not a lot of boxing here. So my boxing just kind of been put on hold. But that's definitely something that I want to continue because that's my first love. So the next place that I end up, I want to continue boxing. But like I said, really why I switched was I just got bored. I wanted something more in training. I walked into an MMA gym and it excited me, and I hadn't been excited about training in a while. So,
how did you find the transition? Because obviously, with doing the boxing, you're focusing on your striking, focusing on your hands, and then go to MMA, especially with the grappling aspect. How did you find the transition?
I picked up jiu-jitsu really quickly. That was I love jiu-jitsu. That was easy for me. The most challenge that I've had is the wrestling aspect. I like to stand up tall and fight, and then clinching in boxing you don't do. So my clinch game was horrible, and I didn't really have any wrestling at all. So that was the biggest transition for me. I feel comfortable on my back. And since I moved to Sioux Falls, I've been working with Shayna on my wrestling, so now my wrestling, I feel comfortable there too. But definitely the transition from the standing to the ground was the hardest part. That in between game, the clinch game and stuff, that was the most difficult for me. And also, brawling, I was used to really technical striking, coming from gyms where no one just comes at you, starts swinging wildly. So that was also something that kind of was hard to deal with at first, was, girls that weren't throwing straight punches, wild swinging. That's still something that I'm trying to get used to. It's hard to train for that. When you're used to straight jabs, straight rights, tight hooks, it's difficult to train for that crazy overhand right that comes from your hip. But, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine in your boxing training, that's something you just wouldn't dream of doing, because there's not necessarily the technique behind it. Of course, if you get caught by one of them, there's certainly a lot of power behind it. So you talked there a little bit about your training. Who are some of the people that you're training with that have helped you prepare for this fight?
Well, I credit all my jiu-jitsu to Gracie Tampa, where I trained for 2 years down in Florida. And my boxing all comes from where I'm from, Seattle, Washington. That's where I started. But right now I'm living and training in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I'm training with Shayna Baszler. She's a catch wrestler extraordinaire, and that's all. That's what me and her work on a lot. So I love catch wrestling now. I want to get really good at it. It's fun. So she's definitely helped me out a lot. My game's improved drastically since I've moved here. I've become a lot more confident in aspects that I felt uncomfortable in before. So, yeah.
And also, with regards to your up and coming fight week on Friday, one of the big things as well, of course, is you're co-headlining XFC, and obviously, of course, that means it's going to be on national television. What does that kind of exposure mean for you so early on in your MMA career, and does it add any extra pressure for you?
Not really. I think it's cool because I have family all over the country that can watch me. All it really means is, opportunity for more sponsors, because sponsors that, when you fight on TV, there's a lot more people that are willing to sponsor you. But when I'm in there, it doesn't matter if there was, only 2 people watching. It's the exact same as if there's thousands, once the fight starts. I try not to let that kind of thing get at me mentally. I think it's just a great opportunity. Like I said, I have a lot of family in Alaska and Washington State, and they all watch me fight on TV, and that would never happen. So that's really cool. But I try not to let the mental aspect get to me. Just stay focused. It's just another fight. She's just another opponent. So.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the right approach to take, and it must be nice knowing that people that you might not get to see all the time can actually see what you're doing and see how well you're progressing. Now, the other thing I want to ask you about before I let you do any shout outs and before I let you go, obviously at the minute there's a massive boom at the minute within women's mixed martial arts. Of course, XFC are doing a lot for women's MMA. We're seeing what Invicta are doing, and they're putting on some solid events. Of course, we're seeing women in the Ultimate Fighting Championship now. We've got Bellator. What's it like to be part of that, knowing there's such a boom at the moment within women's mixed martial arts?
Well, it's awesome, especially being signed to a promotion like the XFC. The XFC is, one of the top ones, especially for females right now. At the same time, you have Invicta, and you have all of these girls showing how awesome they are. And it's perfect time for me to just be really beginning MMA career. It's exciting. I have no idea where it's going to go. You have the Ultimate Fighter coming out now for the 135s, and who knows what weight class is next that they're going to sign on the UFC. So, there's a lot of opportunities that are opening up, and I'm still young enough that, I have plenty of time to see where it goes. But I think it's great, and I think it's great that you have promoters like John Prisco, who's building promotions are building divisions within his promotion for women. It's not just a random girl fight to bring in the crowd. He's building divisions in the 115, and you see that in other promotions too, but not very many. More so now, but, you have Invicta and Bellator and XFC and UFC, and that's really it for who are building these women's divisions. So it means a lot more, to be to be fighting for a promotion like that. So I'm still excited to see, where it leads, what happens. The future is endless.
Absolutely. At the moment, there just seems to be so much emphasis and so much being put on women's mixed martial arts, and with where it can go, the potential is absolutely endless. I just want to say, Stephanie, it's been a real pleasure having you onto today's show. I really appreciate you coming on. But before we let you go, I want to give you a chance to do any shout-outs. Want to shout out any friends, family, sponsors, and let people know about your Facebook and Twitter as well?
Yeah. First, thank you to TJ for getting me on your show. TJ's a savior when it comes to my final week, because I don't remember anything. I wouldn't even remember I had an interview today. He had messaged me, but John Prisco with the XFC, wanted to thank him for putting this fight on, even though the original fight got canceled. He found me a replacement, which is awesome. My team at Gracie Tampa, my team up here at Next Edge, I want to thank Sam Wilson and Anthony Hopkins, American Knockout Fightwear, Tussle, and of course I want to thank Shayna for putting up with me during my weight cut. That's about it.
Well, that's
sure,
brilliant.
I forgot plenty of things. But.
We really appreciate you coming on, and we wish you all the luck for the fight a week Friday as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. Bye.
See you later.